3 things you need to do in order to go from fearful avoidant to secure. Think about all those negative relationship patterns you've experienced and how you could find yourself potentially perpetuating these same negative relationship patterns moving forward if you don't stop and do something about it. I've helped hundreds of people through content, coaching, and courses to becoming more securely attached. Number 1 is that you need to uproot your core wounds. Wounds that I always used to tell myself were I am not good enough. Anytime a girl on Hinge didn't want to go out with me, anytime in high school a girl didn't give me their phone number, I always perceived myself as not good enough. That my skin was maybe too dark, that I just wasn't attractive enough, not funny enough. The thing about our core wounds is that they actually are lenses, which alter the different ways that we actually perceive our relationships in life. Not only did I have that core wound that said, I am not good enough, I also had that core wound that said, I will be trapped, especially in relationships. And so whenever a good opportunity came before me, or finally it was somebody who wanted me, who actually wanted my time, who actually wanted my attention, who was invested, I would run for fear of being trapped in that relationship and losing myself, losing all of who I am to that relationship. Or when it came time to be vulnerable, my core wound that said, I am weak when vulnerable would come out from childhood. I would remember the times where I was punished for crying or punished for showing emotion, and I would shut down and retreat. Or one of my personal favorite core wounds, I would begin to think I am or will be abandoned. Needing to always be around my partner, leading to codependent relationships, doing little things to manipulate them. I'm not proud of it, but to manipulate them so that I can have control, so that I wouldn't be left. Telling you from personal experience, you need to uproot your core wounds around abandonment. But you also need to uproot all your other core wounds if you actually want to step into secure attachment. Having the ability to be alone and independent while also simultaneously being able to be in the presence of my partner and feeling comfortable depending on them and being vulnerable. Now, the second thing you need to do to go from fearful avoidant attachment to secure attachment is that you need to learn how to fulfill your major needs on your own. In my relationships that failed in the past, I had no clue what my major needs were. And so I always found myself needing to constantly be around that person in order to get those needs fulfilled. You see, in relationships, it's not just about how the person looks or just how they make you feel, but it's also about subconsciously the needs they fulfill for you. So if you have a high need for adventure, which I did, but you don't know how to fulfill that need for adventure on your own and you meet somebody who's adventurous, you're going to be drawn to them. Because whenever you're around them, you get that need for adventure fulfilled. So because you don't know what your needs are, you just find yourself constantly always thinking about this person, needing to always be around them, needing to always be in communication. And you can't quite figure out why. And you start to convince yourself it's love, when in reality, it's just limerence, which is obsession, because you don't know how to fulfill your needs on your own. But the better you get at learning how to fulfill your needs in healthy, fulfilling ways, the more self-sufficient you come, the more independent you can be. But then you also need to have that level of dependence. Because for someone like me who was once fearful avoidant, who had that avoidant side as well as that anxious side, sometimes that avoidant side would come out strong. And I wouldn't want to depend on others to help me meet my needs because I considered myself weak when doing so. Or I thought they would take my vulnerability for granted and use it to manipulate me in the future, like I once did with ex-partner. But you have to understand that healthy relationships not only require you being able to fulfill your needs independently on your own, but it also requires you to depend on your partners. That's interdependence. That's having the ability to meet your needs on your own and have another help you meet those needs. The third thing that you need to do in order to actually go ahead and find yourself in secure attachment is to learn to question your stories. One thing that I used to struggle with, especially when I was with people who were more avoidant than me, so people who were dismissive avoidant, was constantly overthinking about the relationship. Constantly thinking if they loved me, constantly thinking if they were gonna leave me, constantly thinking, are they gonna find someone better for them than me? Constantly thinking if they're talking to their ex-partners, constantly thinking if they're cheating, constantly thinking if I'm not worthy of their love. And these constant thoughts would always put me in a negative emotional state, like I can feel my stomach dropping. And it would actually push me to do negative things, like manipulate them, like call them too much, like try to withdraw in order to manipulate them and make them feel the same pain I was feeling, like criticizing, like arguing, like gaslighting. And again, I'm not proud of these things, but I did something about it. I learned that these type of thoughts that I was thinking were coming from the core wounds that I talked about earlier. Because our core wounds always produce thousands of thoughts throughout the day. The thousands of thoughts we have produce an emotional state that we find ourselves in, and that emotional state will always drive us to make a decision. And more times than not, if we're in a negative emotional state, it'll drive us to take negative action, arguing, fighting, toxic behavior. And the more I learned how to question my stories in real time, the more I learned how to self-soothe, the more I kept myself from going down these negative paths. Just know it is possible to change your attachment style. This is not something you have to struggle with the rest of your life. I'm looking forward to hearing your story towards secure attachment.